We've got some breaking news straight from the federal retirement front lines. The Thrift Savings Plan, aka the TSP, is finally jumping on the In-plan Roth Conversion bandwagon starting in 2026. For those who have been begging for more flexibility in their TSP accounts, Uncle Sam finally heard you. This change could potentially save some of you thousands in taxes down the road and who doesn't like keeping more of their hard-earned money, right? So I'm going to dive into what exactly this is, how it works, and crucially, who it's beneficial for, and more importantly, who it's not beneficial for. So mark your calendars for January 1st, 2026, because this is the day that TSP is adding a sweet new feature, In-plan Roth Conversions. What that means is you can take the money that's already in your traditional pre-tax TSP account and convert it right into your Roth balance within the plan. You'll owe taxes on the amount you convert at the time, but the payoff is setting that money up for tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals later in life. Now, this is a welcoming development, especially for those who anticipate being in a higher tax bracket in the future or who want to diversify their retirement income sources. However, it's important to note that taxes on the converted amount must be paid from non-TSP funds, as the TSP does not allow withholding for in-plan conversion taxes. And that's why careful financial planning is essential to ensure you have the necessary funds to cover the tax liability without dipping into your retirement savings. And I'll go over the details on this throughout this video. To appreciate this new in-plan conversion feature, we need to briefly look at where the TSP came from. The traditional TSP, which many of us know well, first showed up in 1987, and its purpose was to give federal employees and military members a simple way to save pre-tax dollars, much like the traditional 401k most of us are familiar with, right? And the benefit is to lower your taxes now, and your money grows with taxes postponed until retirement, and when you finally pay income tax on what you withdraw. Now, fast forward to 2012, and that's when the Roth TSP option finally joined the party. And that was pretty cool when it came out because it gave us the choice to start putting new money into the TSP on an after-tax basis. And I did this when I was on active duty in the Air Force when my marginal tax rate was like 12%. So no upfront tax break on those contributions, but the awesome payoff is that your qualified withdrawals in retirement are totally tax-free. Well, for over 13 years, you've been able to choose between traditional and Roth for your new contributions. But get this, if you had a big chunk sitting in your traditional balance and wanted to make it Roth, you were basically stuck. You had to separate from service or do this complicated rollover dance to a Roth IRA just to convert it. And thankfully, this new in-plan conversion feature coming January 1st, 2026 makes that process way simpler because you can now convert that existing traditional balance right within the TSP while you're still employed with the federal government or serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. So how do you do this in-plan Roth conversion thing within the TSP? Well, actually, the concept is not brand new. It's the same idea behind converting a traditional IRA or an old 401k to a Roth account. But now you get to do it within the TSP. What happens is pretty simple on the surface. You move money from your traditional pre-tax TSP balance over to your Roth after-tax balance. But the real consequence is that the tax status changes from taxes coming later to taxes are done. So if you have a large balance in your TSP, it's probably not wise to put all of that money into Roth at once and pay an outrageous amount of taxes in the following year. So here's the part you absolutely must understand loud and clear. When you make that in-plan Roth conversion, the amount you convert becomes taxable income in that year. So you're choosing to add that amount to your income tax bill this year. So the fundamental trade is this. You're choosing to convert tax deferred money in your traditional TSP over to tax-free money in your Roth TSP so that the earnings and interest that accrue inside the Roth TSP will grow tax-free, and then you can withdraw from the Roth TSP tax-free. That makes sense so far, right? Now, you might be thinking, why would I want to pay taxes now when I could delay them? Well, good question. Let me walk you through how this works with a few examples. Let's say you're single and earn $75,000 a year. You've been diligently stashing away into your traditional TSP, and now you've got a nice little balance building up along with the employer match. But then you decide to convert $10,000 of it into Roth because you want to diversify your TSP. That $10,000 now gets added to your taxable income for the year. So instead of being taxed on $75,000, you're taxed on $85,000. And keep in mind that this is assuming that $75,000 is after the standard deduction of $15,000 in the tax year 2025. Now, let's check out the tax math. And please keep in mind that I'm going to use the 2025 tax brackets, and the 2026 tax brackets will be slightly different from the inflation adjustment. So for 2025, if you're single, the 22% federal marginal tax rate applies to income between $48,476 and $103,350. So most of that conversion falls squarely into that 22% bracket. That means you're looking at roughly $2,200 in federal taxes just from the $10,000 conversion. State taxes? Yeah, those too, unless you're in a no income state tax, in which case, just go ahead and do a little happy dance like me, who lives in the state of Nevada where there's no state income tax. So think about it this way. The $2,200 that you pay into today in 2025, with inflation into the future, that $2,200 is going to be much cheaper in 10, 20, or 30 years, right? So paying that taxes up front now and let it grow tax-free, and let's say that the market does a 7% average annual return, that's still going to beat the heck out of that $2,200 in taxes that you paid into initially, let's say now in 2025. Now, let me give you another example. And let's say you're married and filing your taxes jointly, and together you earn $150,000. You decide to convert $20,000, and that bumps your taxable income to $170,000. And most of that extra amount will also fall into the 22% marginal tax bracket. So you're looking at $4,400 in federal taxes just for the conversion. So if you're married, you're going to have more room to convert that money and still fall in the same tax bracket. Now, here's where paperwork comes into play, because of course there's paperwork. And the TSP will issue you what's called a Form 1099-R for the taxable portion of your conversion. So if you convert $10,000, then box 1 will show $10,000 for the gross distribution, because technically you took that $10,000 out of the traditional TSP. And box 2 will also show $10,000 for the taxable amount. So if you convert in 2025, which you can't, and let's just say 2026, you'll get that 1099-R in early 2027. And the taxes will be due with your 2026 tax return, typically by April 15th, 2027. So if you wait until 2026 or say 2027 to convert, you've got another year in 2028 before the tax bill shows up. As you can see here, planning is everything. Now let's talk benefits, because done right, this move can be a seriously powerful tool. First, you expect your tax rate to be the same or even higher in retirement. Maybe you're a GS-15 or SCS, or maybe you're a general officer, who knows, with a fat pension coming your way. Maybe you've got military retirement income in addition to the first pension. Or maybe you've been crushing it with real estate or side hustles. Whatever the reason is, if you think you will still be in a higher tax bracket later, paying taxes now at today's known rates could save you a bundle in the long run. Second, tax diversification. And if you've been following me for quite some time, I'm a big fan of tax-free assets like the Roth TSP and the Roth IRA. And the reason is simple. Having both traditional and Roth buckets gives you flexibility. When you're retired, you can mix and match your withdrawals to manage your tax bracket, avoid Medicare surcharges, or even reduce taxes on your Social Security. The Roth TSP also avoids the required minimum distributions when you're in your 70s. And I'm a big fan of the IRS's hands-off approach to my Roth retirement assets. Third, you're in it for the long haul. If you plan to let that converted money sit and grow for 5 years or more, the tax-free growth can really shine. But take note, there's a 5-year aging requirement. Remember, the earnings that accrued inside your Roth TSP are considered qualified after 5 years have passed since January 1st of the calendar year when you made your first Roth TSP contribution and you're at least 59.5. It's like putting bread in the oven and opening the door too early. So don't do it, or it's gonna fall flat. So when should you not do a Roth in-plan conversion? First and foremost, you generally should not do a Roth in-plan conversion if you expect your tax rate to be lower in retirement than it would be at the time of conversion. Why pay 22% or more in taxes on the money today if you anticipate being in the 10% or 12% bracket in retirement? You would simply be accelerating your tax bill and paying more overall. If you think your income will drop significantly in retirement, or maybe no longer have a salary, or you'll be relying mostly on pension and social security, leaving the money pre-tax might make more sense. Second, if you're nearing retirement, say within 5 years, you might not have enough time left for the tax-free growth on the converted amount to fully offset the tax you paid up front. The longer your time horizon, the more powerful the compounding effect of tax-free growth becomes. But if retirement is right around the corner, the math might not work out in your favor if you need to use the TSP right away going into your retirement. And lastly, if you don't have the cash to pay the tax bill from outside the TSP, step on the brakes. You need to have a plan to set aside some cash every time you make the conversion. The TSP Roth conversion is treated like a direct rollover within the same TSP plan. And it's not like a Roth IRA conversion, so there's no tax withholding at the point of conversion. And since there's no automatic withholding, you may need to adjust your tax withholding with your current income so that you don't end up making an under withholding penalty or payment to the IRS. There's a thing called tax under withholding where the IRS penalizes you for not paying or withholding enough taxes throughout the year. The other way you can do this is by making a quarterly tax payment. And remember, once you make that Roth conversion in your TSP, it's an irreversible process. There's no takesy-backsies on the conversion. Now, if you find this confusing, you can easily schedule a consultation with me at firestation.com/consultation, and I'll walk you through the process step by step. You can also join our private client program by visiting firestation.com/private clients. So what is the best thing to do if you're not yet ready to jump on this? Well, start planning now. Run some numbers, maybe convert some small amounts over a few years instead of all at once. That's called a Roth conversion ladder, and it's a slick move for those who want to stay in lower tax brackets while slowly building up their Roth balances. And I personally think it's a smart move by TSP, which is finally catching up to the private sector 401k. But I'd love to see even more features. Maybe someday we'll get a Roth option for the 5% employer match. Maybe they're going to stop charging outrageous fees for the mutual fund windows. We'll see. What about you? What are your thoughts on this feature? And what improvements do you want to see from the TSP? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I'd love to hear your take. And this has been another beast of a video, and I hope you got a lot out of it.